Aliens in Distress, called the Deathworlder Fleet. Part 1. The stars were burning. Ambassador Thalira stood on the observation deck of her orbital station, watching the red dots appear on the scanner. 120 ships. All of them belonged to the Kresh Dominion. All of them were coming to destroy her people. The Velan were a peaceful species. They had never fought a war. Their ships had shields for asteroids and engines for exploration, but no weapons, no armies, no way to stop what was coming. Thalira's hands shook as she activated the emergency council. The holographic faces of her fellow leaders appeared around her. All of them looked terrified. "How long do we have?" asked Elder Morn, his blue skin pale with fear. 3 days, Thalira said quietly. Maybe 4 if they stop to refuel. We must evacuate, another council member said. Get our people to the outer colonies. There is no time. The Kresh will follow. They always follow. The council fell silent. Everyone knew what the Kresh did to conquered worlds. Slavery, experimentation, complete subjugation. The Velan would not survive this. Thalira took a deep breath. There is one option, an old option. One we have been too afraid to use. She pulled up an ancient file from the Galactic Archives. A red warning label flashed across it. Quarantine Zone, Class Nuthemed. Deathworld, no contact authorized. Earth, she said. The council gasped. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Earth. It was the nightmare world where nothing should be able to live, yet somehow an entire civilization had evolved. The humans, predators who ate meat, survived diseases that would kill any other species, and fought wars so brutal that the galactic community had voted to leave them alone forever. You cannot be serious, Elder Morn said. The humans are monsters. They will be worse than the Kresh. Or they will be our only hope, Thalira replied. We have 3 days. I am sending the message. Captain Junho was drinking coffee in his quarters when the alert came through. He set down his cup and looked at the screen. An alien distress signal. That was unusual. Earth had been cut off from the rest of the galaxy for 30 years. No one talked to them. No one wanted them. He walked quickly to the command deck of the UNS Indomitable. His crew snapped to attention. Show me the message, he ordered. The communication officer played it. The translation software struggled with the alien language, but the meaning was clear. A species called the Velan were about to be wiped out. They were asking Earth for help. Sir, what should we do? Asked his second officer. Forward it to Admiral Yuna. This is above my pay grade. Within an hour, Junho found himself in a video conference with Earth's military command. Admiral Yuna sat at the center of the table, her expression serious. Around her were generals, representatives from different nations, and tactical advisors. The Velan are herbivores, Commander Hyun explained, showing images of the alien species. They looked fragile, with large eyes and thin limbs. No military capability. The Kresh have been expanding their empire for 50 years. They take worlds and enslave the populations. How many ships do they have? Admiral Yuna asked. 120, ma'am. Heavy cruisers and dreadnoughts. And how many can we send? We have 12 ships in range, maybe 3,000 personnel total. The room fell quiet. Representative Minji leaned forward. We are outgunned 10-1. Yes, ma'am. Then we have an advantage, Admiral Yuna said. Everyone looked at her in surprise. She smiled slightly. They do not expect us to say yes. They do not expect anyone to help, and they certainly do not expect to fight humans. We will surprise them. Admiral, with respect, we could lose everything, said one of the generals. Yuna nodded. We could. But if we ignore this, we prove the galaxy right about us, that we are monsters who only care about ourselves. I did not join this fleet to be that person, did you? No one answered. Prepare the Deathworlder fleet, Yuna ordered. We leave in 6 hours. Lieutenant Taeyang walked through the corridors of the UNS Resolute, heading toward the briefing room. Around him, Marines were checking their equipment and saying goodbye to loved ones over video calls. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip. Sergeant Nari was already in the briefing room when he arrived. She looked calm. but Taeyang knew her well enough to see the tension in her shoulders. "You ready for this?" he asked. "Are any of us?" she replied. "We have been training to fight other humans, not aliens. A fight is a fight. Maybe, or maybe we are about to learn we are not as tough as we think." The rest of the battalion filed in, and Taeyang started the briefing. He showed them what they knew about the Kresh: large species, natural armor plating, aggressive tactics. The Kresh believed in direct combat and overwhelming force. "They have never lost a war," Taeyang said, "but they have never fought humans. We do not fight fair. We fight smart. Remember your training: speed over strength, tactics over power. Adapt or die." The Marines nodded, but he could see the fear in some of their faces. He did not blame them. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Doyen was running final checks on the new gravity drives. They were experimental technology, barely tested, but they would give the human ships an edge in speed and maneuverability. "How are we looking?" Captain Junho asked, appearing beside him. 90% ready, sir. The drives will work. Probably." "Probably," Doyen shrugged. "This is cutting-edge technology, Captain. No guarantees in war." Junho nodded. "Do your best. That is all any of us can do." In the medical bay, Medic Hana was stocking supplies: bandages, medicines, surgical equipment. She tried not to think about how many people she might lose, tried not to imagine the empty beds filled with dying soldiers. Her assistant, a young man named Jaiho, was organizing blood supplies. "Do you think we will win?" he asked quietly. Hana paused. "I think we will try. And sometimes that is enough." 6 hours later, the 12 ships of Earth's fleet gathered in formation. Captain Junho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was waiting to die, and a fleet of predators was coming to destroy them. But between them now stood humanity. The species the galaxy had feared and abandoned, the Deathworlders. "All ships report ready, sir," the communication officer said. Junho took a deep breath. "Then let's go save some lives. Engage hyperspace." The stars stretched into lines of light, and the Deathworlder fleet disappeared into the void, racing toward a war that would change the galaxy forever. Aliens in distress, called the Deathworlder fleet. Our Part 2, the human fleet arrived at the edge of Velen space in a flash of light. 12 warships appeared out of nowhere, their engines cooling from the hyperspace jump. On the Velen orbital stations, alarms started screaming. Ambassador Thelira rushed to the command center. "What is happening? Are the Kresh here already?" "No, Ambassador," the sensor operator said, his voice shaking. "It is them, the humans. They actually came." Thelira felt her heart beating fast. She had sent the message hoping someone would answer, but she had never truly believed the humans would respond. Everyone knew about the Deathworlders, the species that should not exist, the predators from a world so dangerous that visiting it meant certain death. "Open a channel," she ordered. The screen flickered and a human face appeared. Thelira could not help it. She stepped backward. The human had forward-facing eyes, like a hunter. Strong jaw muscles for tearing meat. Every feature marked him as a creature that killed to survive. "This is Captain Junho of the United Nations ship Indomitable," the human said. His voice was calm and steady. "We received your distress call. We are here to help." Thelira forced herself to speak. "Captain Junho, I am Ambassador Thelira. Thank you for coming. We did not expect anyone to answer." "We are not the monsters you think we are, Ambassador. We fight to protect, not to conquer. May I come aboard your station? We need to plan a defense." Every instinct told Thelira to say no, to keep these predators away from her people. But the Kresh were coming. She had no choice. "Yes, please. We will prepare a docking port." 1 hour later, Thelira stood in the docking bay with her security team. They all carried small energy pistols, though she knew the weapons would be useless against humans. She had read the reports. Humans could survive injuries that would kill any other species. They hunted animals on their own world for sport. They had fought wars against each other for thousands of years. The airlock opened, and Captain Junho walked through. He was tall, nearly 2 meters, with dark hair and sharp eyes. Behind him came 3 other humans. All of them moved with a grace that spoke of danger, like predators stalking prey. But Junho smiled and extended his hand. "Ambassador Thelira, it is good to meet you in person." Thelira looked at his hand. She had read about this human custom. Handshakes, a gesture of peace. Slowly she reached out and touched his hand. His skin was warm, his grip gentle. He did not crush her fingers as she had feared. "Welcome to Velen Prime, Captain." They walked to the conference room together. Thelira noticed how the humans looked around, constantly watching, constantly aware. She tried to make conversation. "Was your journey difficult?" "Long, but not difficult," Junho replied. "Our ships are fast. We made good time. You must be hungry. We can provide food. That would be appreciated. Do you have any protein sources? Meat, if possible?" Thelira felt sick. They wanted meat. Of course they did. Predators. "We can synthesize some. We do not eat animals ourselves." One of the other humans, a woman named Commander G1, spoke up. "We understand. We can also eat plants. Whatever you have available will be fine." In the conference room, Thelira pulled up the tactical display. She showed the humans everything: the Kresh fleet positions, their expected arrival time, the Velen evacuation plans. "You plan to run?" Junho asked. "We have no choice. We are not fighters." "You are now." Thelira looked at him in shock. "Captain, my people do not know how to fight. We have never had weapons, never had war. We cannot stand against the Kresh." Commander Jiwan leaned forward. "You do not have to fight. We will fight. But we need your help. Information, logistics, support. Can you do that?" Yes, we can do that." Junho nodded. "Good. Now tell me about the Kresh. How do they fight?" Thelira pulled up old battle records. The Kresh attacked with overwhelming force, sending their entire fleet in a single massive wave. They did not use tactics or strategy. They simply crushed their enemies with superior numbers. The humans looked at each other and smiled. "What is funny?" Thelira asked. "They fight like they have never faced real opposition," said the third human, a man named Tactical Officer Kiwan. "They have won so many times they stopped thinking. That is their weakness. But they have 120 ships. You have 12. "Numbers do not win wars, Ambassador," Junho said quietly. "Strategy does, intelligence does, determination does, and humans have survived everything our world threw at us by being smarter than our enemies. We will survive this too." Over the next day, the humans worked with terrifying efficiency. They launched tiny drones that the Velen sensors could barely detect. They studied the Kresh fleet movements. They calculated firing ranges, shield strengths, weapon capabilities. Commander Jiwan explained their plan to the Velen military advisors, who had never fought a day in their lives. "We will not meet them head-on," she said. "That is what they expect. Instead, we will divide their fleet, hit them from multiple angles, make them chase us, tire them out." "That is dishonest," one of the Velen advisors protested. "War should be direct, honorable." Lieutenant Sora, one of the human tactical officers, fixed him with a hard stare. "There is no honor in dying. There is no honor in watching your people become slaves. Honor does not win wars. Survival does." The advisor fell silent. Thelira spent hours with the humans trying to understand them. She asked Captain Junho about Earth. He told her about the planet's extreme weather, hurricanes that could destroy cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, winters so cold that water turned to ice. "How did you survive?" she asked. "We adapted. We built shelters. We created technology. We worked together." "Humans are not the strongest species, Ambassador. We are not the fastest. We do not have claws or armor or venom. But we never give up. Ever. That is what makes us dangerous." Thelira was starting to understand. The humans were not monsters. They were survivors. Everything about them, from their physical strength to their aggressive tactics, came from a world that tried to kill them every day. They fought because they had to, not because they wanted to. The creche will arrive in 12 hours, Kiwan reported. They are moving faster than we expected. Admiral Yuna appeared on the communication screen from her flagship. Captain Junho, are we ready? Yes, ma'am. All ships in position. The Velen have provided us with hiding spots in the asteroid field. The creche will not see us until it is too late. Good? And the Velen? Thalira spoke up. My people are evacuating to the inner system. We will stay out of the battle. Smart. This is going to get ugly. After the call ended, Junho turned to Thalira. You should go too, Ambassador. Get somewhere safe. No, she said firmly. You came here to save my people. The least I can do is watch, to bear witness. Junho studied her for a moment, then nodded. As you wish. But stay on this station. Do not go anywhere near the fighting. As the humans prepared to leave, Thalira stopped Junho at the airlock. Captain, why did you come? Your people owe us nothing. The galaxy abandoned you. We would have done the same. So why? Junho looked at her with those predator eyes, and for the first time she saw sadness in them. Because someone needed help, and we could give it. That is reason enough. He walked back to his ship, leaving Thalira standing alone. She realized something then. The galaxy had been wrong about humans. They were dangerous, yes, but not evil, not monsters. They were something far more terrifying. They were heroes who knew how to kill. Aliens in distress. Called the Deathworlder fleet. Part 3. The creche fleet arrived like a storm. 120 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Their hulls were dark metal, covered with weapon ports and armor plating. Each ship was 3 times the size of the largest human vessel. On the bridge of the creche flagship, War Leader Drexith studied the scanning reports. Where is the Velan defense fleet? There is none, War Leader, his tactical officer reported. The planet appears defenseless. Only a few orbital stations. No military presence. Drexith laughed, a deep rumbling sound. They did not even try to fight. This will be easier than expected. Prepare to advance. What Drexith did not know was that 12 human ships were hiding in the asteroid field, completely powered down. Their heat signatures matched the rocks around them. Their electronic systems were silent. They were invisible. Captain Junho sat in the dark bridge of the Indomitable, watching the creche fleet through passive sensors. How many forward scouts are they sending? 8 ships, sir, Kiwan reported, moving ahead of the main fleet to check for threats. Perfect. Captain Minho, are your ships ready? On the communication channel, Captain Minho's voice came through. Ready and waiting, sir. Just give us the word. Junho watched the creche scouts move closer. They were arrogant, flying in a straight line with shields at minimum power. They did not expect danger. They had conquered 40 worlds without real resistance. Why would this one be different? Now, Junho said quietly. 3 human destroyers burst out of the asteroid field, like sharks attacking prey. Their engines flared bright, their weapons already firing. The creche scouts had no time to react. Captain Minho's ship, the UNS Thunder, fired a spread of kinetic rounds at near-light speed. They punched through the first creche scout's shields like paper. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. The other 2 human destroyers, commanded by officers named Bora and Taewon, attacked from different angles. They moved fast, impossibly fast for ships of their size. The experimental gravity drives let them turn and accelerate in ways that should not be possible. Within 3 minutes, 5 creche scouts were destroyed. The remaining 3 tried to run, sending distress signals back to the main fleet. Do we let them go? Minho asked. Yes, Junho replied. We want Drexith to know we are here. We want him angry. On the creche flagship, alarms were screaming. War Leader Drexith stared at the reports in disbelief. 5 scouts destroyed. By only 3 ships. Impossible. What did this? He demanded. Unknown vessels, War Leader. Small. Fast. They appeared from nowhere and struck with incredible precision. Show me the recordings. The tactical display played back the battle. Drexith watched the human ships move. They did not fight like any species he had encountered. They did not charge forward or try to overpower with shields. Instead, they attacked weak points. They struck and vanished. They fought like cowards. Find them, Drexith ordered. Send 20 ships. Destroy these insects. But finding the human ships was not easy. They had disappeared back into the asteroid field. The Kresh scanners could not locate them. For 2 hours, 20 Kresh warships searched while the main fleet waited. On the Velan orbital station, Ambassador Thelira watched the battle unfold. I do not understand. Why are the Kresh not advancing? Commander Jiwan, who had stayed behind to coordinate, explained. Captain Junho is controlling the tempo, making them react instead of act. Every minute they waste searching is a minute we can prepare. But eventually they will find your ships. Maybe. But by then, they will be frustrated, angry. People make mistakes when they are angry. Corporal Isil was working in the communications center, broadcasting messages into the Kresh fleet channels. She had recorded footage of Earth. Hurricanes with winds that could tear buildings apart. Volcanoes erupting with enough force to darken the sky. Predators hunting in packs, taking down prey 3 times their size. Between the footage, she added simple messages in the Kresh language. You are hunting Deathworlders. You are hunting survivors. You are hunting humans. Some of the Kresh captains began reporting the broadcast to Drexith. He ordered them to ignore the propaganda, but the images were disturbing. What kind of world produced such horrors? What kind of species could survive there? One Kresh captain, a younger officer named Threxil, watched the videos in his quarters. He saw humans fighting wars against each other with terrible weapons, nuclear bombs, chemical warfare, diseases. And yet humanity had survived it all, had thrived despite it. Threxil felt something he had never felt before in battle: fear. Admiral Yuna was coordinating the larger strategy from her flagship, the UNS Determination. She had divided the human fleet into 4 groups. Each group would strike from a different direction, keeping the Kresh confused and divided. The enemy is searching the outer asteroid field, her sensor officer reported. 20 ships committed. The main fleet is holding position. Good. They are taking the bait. Prepare Phase 2. Phase 2 was Engineer Doyen's masterpiece. For the past 8 hours while the Kresh searched, human engineering teams had been placing improvised mines throughout the asteroid field. They looked like normal space debris, impossible to distinguish from the rocks around them. Each mine was packed with explosive charges and scrap metal. When they detonated, they would turn into clouds of shrapnel moving at deadly speeds. All mines in position, Admiral, Doyen reported. Network is ready. Excellent work, Chief. Stand by. Captain Junho's voice came over the command channel. Admiral, the Kresh search party is entering the mine zone. Should we spring the trap? Yuna considered. 20 ships was a good number. Enough to hurt the Kresh, but not so many that the humans would have no advantage left. Do it, Junho gave the order. Lieutenant Sora, who had been monitoring the mine network, activated the detonation sequence. The asteroid field erupted in fire. Hundreds of mines exploded simultaneously, creating a storm of metal and energy. The 20 Kresh ships were caught in the middle of it. 3 ships were destroyed outright, their hulls ripped open by the shrapnel. 5 more were crippled, their engines dead and shields failing. The rest took heavy damage. And while the Kresh were reeling, the human fleet attacked. All 12 human ships came out of hiding, driving hard into the flanks of the damaged Kresh vessels. They fired everything they had: missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds. The Kresh tried to fight back, but they were hurt and disorganized. Sergeant Nari led her Marine team aboard the UNS Resolute. Lieutenant Taeyong had given them a special mission. One of the crippled Kresh ships was drifting, its crew still alive but trapped. We are going to board it, Taeyong explained. Capture the crew, show the Kresh that we do not kill helplessly. Nari's team launched in armored boarding pods. They cut through the Kresh ship's hull and entered the corridors. Inside, they found Kresh warriors waiting. The aliens were huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with thick armor plating on their shoulders and backs. But when the Kresh saw the human Marines in their combat armor, something unexpected happened. They lowered their weapons. "We yield," the Kresh squad leader said in broken common language. "We yield to the Deathworlders." Nari was surprised. "You surrender? We are warriors, not fools. We cannot defeat you in close combat. Your reputation precedes you." Nari did not understand what reputation he meant, but she accepted the surrender. Her team secured 73 Kresh prisoners without firing a shot. Back on the flagship, war leader Drexith was losing his mind. 20 ships damaged or destroyed. 73 warriors captured, all by a tiny fleet of unknown aliens. "Who are they?" he roared. Finally, one of his intelligence officers found the answer. "War leader, they are humans, from the quarantined world, the Class 12 Death World." Drexith felt cold. He had heard stories about Deathworlders, species that evolved in hell and learned to thrive there, species that did not know when to quit, species that fought with a savagery that civilized beings could not understand. "How many humans are there?" he asked quietly. "Intelligence estimates 12 ships, perhaps 3,000 individuals." "And they have done this much damage?" "Yes, war leader." Drexith looked at his tactical display. He still had 95 functional ships. The humans had 12. The numbers were on his side. But for the first time in his long military career, Drexith wondered if numbers would be enough. Aliens in distress called the Deathworlder fleet. Part 4. The UNS Resolute was burning. Fire spread through 3 decks, and the hull had a massive breach on the starboard side. Lieutenant Taeyang ran through the smoke-filled corridors, leading damage control teams toward the engine room. "We need to seal that breach," he shouted over the alarms. "If we lose the engine room, we lose the ship." Behind him, engineers carried emergency repair equipment. The Kresh had finally adapted to human tactics. They had started using concentrated fire, targeting one human ship at a time. The Resolute had taken the hit while protecting a Velan civilian station that still had 10,000 people aboard. The station was safe. But the Resolute was dying. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Doyen was working frantically to keep the gravity drive stable. The containment field was failing. If it collapsed completely, the resulting explosion would destroy not just the Resolute, but everything within 500 kilometers. "How bad is it?" Taeyang asked. "Bad," Doyen replied, sweat running down his face. "I can stabilize it, but I need 30 minutes. "We do not have 30 minutes. The Kresh know we are hurt. They are sending more ships." "Then hold them off, because if I rush this, we all die anyway." Taeyang got on the communication system. "Captain Junho, the Resolute needs time. We are taking heavy damage." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Junho made a quick decision. "All ships, form up on the Resolute. Defensive formation. We buy them the time they need." The remaining human ships moved into position, creating a shield wall around the damaged Resolute. The Kresh fleet pressed the attack, sensing weakness. In the medical bay of the Resolute, Medic Hana worked without stopping. The wounded kept coming. Burned crew members. People with broken bones. One young officer with a piece of metal through his chest. Her assistant Jiho was helping, but his hands were shaking. "There are too many. We cannot save them all." "We save who we can," Hana said firmly. "That is all anyone can do. Now hand me the surgical laser." She worked on the officer with the chest wound. The metal had missed his heart by centimeters. Lucky, but he was losing blood fast. She sealed the wound, replaced the lost blood with artificial substitutes, and moved him to recovery. By the time Engineer Doyen stabilized the gravity drive, the Resolute had lost 37 crew members. 37 humans who had traveled across the galaxy to help people they had never met, who had died protecting strangers. Taeyang stood in the corridor, looking at the emergency body bags lined up against the wall. Sergeant Nari found him there. "We lost good people today," she said quietly. "We did. Was it worth it?" Taeyang looked at her. 10,000 Valen are alive because of what we did. 10,000 people who would be dead or enslaved. Yes, Sergeant. It was worth it. War leader Drexith was finally taking the humans seriously. He had lost 30 ships now. 30 ships to a force one-tenth his size. His officers were becoming nervous. Some were even questioning his leadership. We need to end this, Drexith decided. No more careful tactics. No more testing them. We hit the Velan homeworld directly. 20 ships, full power, destroy their cities from orbit. His second-in-command hesitated. War leader, that will leave those ships exposed. The humans will attack them. Let them. While they chase those ships, the rest of our fleet will surround and destroy them. The humans have been clever, but they are running out of tricks. It was a good plan, a brutal plan. And it might have worked. Except Commander Hyun had been listening to the Kresh communications. The humans had cracked their encryption codes hours ago. Admiral Yuna, the Kresh are planning an orbital strike on the Velan homeworld, Hyun reported. 20 ships heading to the planet. It is a trap to draw us out. How long until they reach the planet? 2 hours, Yuna thought fast. If they ignored the attack, millions of Velan would die. If they took the bait, the Kresh main fleet would catch them in the open. Either way, people died. We cannot let them hit the planet, Yuna said. Prepare to intercept, but we do this smart. Get me Captain Junho. Junho's plan was insane. He would take only his ship, the Indomitable, along with 2 fighter squadrons. They would intercept the 20 Kresh ships in the upper atmosphere of the Velan homeworld. You will be outnumbered 20-3, Yuna pointed out. Yes, ma'am. But we will have the planet's gravity on our side, and we will have something else. What? Desperation. Those Kresh ships are coming to kill civilians. Our people do not take kindly to that. The fighter squadrons launched from the Resolute and the UNS Determination. 12 small fighters against 20 massive warships. Leading them was pilot Yunho, one of the best flyers in the human fleet. Remember your training, Yunho told his squadron over the radio. We are small and fast. They are big and slow. Use the planet's gravity to slingshot around them. Hit their weapon ports and engines. Make every shot count. The Kresh ships entered the atmosphere, their weapons charging to fire on the cities below. 2 million Velan lived in the capital city. 2 million lives about to end. The human fighters struck like angry wasps. They dove through the Kresh formation, firing missiles and energy weapons at point-blank range. The Kresh ships tried to track them, but the fighters were too fast, too agile. Yunho personally took out 3 Kresh weapon systems, saving countless lives below. But then his fighter took a direct hit. The engine died. The controls stopped responding. He was falling toward the planet, unable to pull up. Below him was a Kresh bomber, moving into position over the capital city. It was charging its main weapon. One shot would destroy everything. Yunho made his choice. He stopped trying to restart his engine. Instead, he aimed his dead fighter straight at the bomber and activated the emergency thruster. His ship accelerated downward. Yunho, what are you doing? His wingman shouted over the radio. My job, Yunho replied calmly. Tell my family I am sorry. His fighter hit the Kresh bomber at terminal velocity. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. The bomber was destroyed. The city below was saved. But Yunho was gone. Captain Junho watched the explosion from the Indomitable. He felt cold inside. Another good person dead. Another hero who would never go home. But there was no time to mourn. The rest of the Kresh attack force was still active. Junho brought his ship in low, using the atmospheric turbulence to mask his approach. The Indomitable was a warship, not designed for planetary operations, but Junho was an excellent pilot. He came up behind the Kresh flagship in the attack group and fired everything he had. The Kresh shields collapsed. The ship's engines exploded. It fell out of the sky, crashing into an empty ocean. The other Kresh ships broke off their attack and fled back to space. The Velan homeworld was safe, for now. On the orbital station, Ambassador Thalira watched the battle with tears in her eyes. The humans had saved her people again. But they were paying such a terrible price. War leader Drexith watched his attack force retreat in chaos. 5 more ships lost, including one of his best commanders. And the humans were still fighting. How? He asked the empty bridge. How are they doing this? His intelligence officer spoke up quietly. War leader, I have been studying the human transmissions. I think I understand. They are not fighting to conquer. They are fighting to protect. It gives them strength we cannot match. Drexith turned to look at the officer. You think they are better warriors because they care about the Velan? I think they are better warriors because they care at all. Drexith sat in his command chair and looked at the tactical display. He still had 70 ships. The humans had maybe 10 left functional. He could still win this. But suddenly, war leader Drexith was not sure he wanted to. Aliens in distress called the Deathworlder fleet. Part 5. Captain Junho stood alone in his quarters, looking at the wall where he kept the names of his crew. He had just added 37 new names from the Resolute, plus pilot Yunho, plus 12 others from various ships. 50 human lives lost in 3 days of fighting. On Earth, those names would be carved into memorial walls. Their families would receive flags and medals. But here, in deep space, all Junho could do was remember them. There was a knock on his door. Enter. Commander Jiwon came in. She looked tired. Everyone looked tired. Sir, Admiral Yuna wants to speak with you. She has a plan. Another plan? We barely survived the last 3. This one is different, sir. She wants you to challenge Drexith directly. Junho stared at her. Challenge him? Like single combat? Yes, sir. The Kresh culture values personal strength. If you defeat their war leader in single combat, their fleet will be honor-bound to retreat. And if I lose, then we all die. But at least we tried. Junho thought about it. The Kresh still had 70 ships. The human fleet was down to 10 operational vessels. They could keep fighting, keep using tactics and tricks, but eventually the numbers would catch up. They would lose. How do we know Drexith will accept? Admiral Yuna has been studying their communications. Drexith is losing face with his subordinates. They question his leadership. He needs to prove himself. If you challenge him publicly, he will have to accept or look weak. Junho nodded slowly. Set it up. The challenge went out on all frequencies. Captain Junho of Earth challenged war leader Drexith of the Kresh Dominion to single combat. The winner would determine the fate of the Velan homeworld. On the Kresh flagship, Drexith's officers expected him to laugh at the challenge. A human wanted to fight him directly? Drexith was 3 meters tall and weighed over 200 kilograms. He had natural armor plating and claws that could tear through steel. The human would be crushed in seconds. But Drexith did not laugh. He looked at the tactical display, at the 70 ships he had left, and the empty spaces where 50 ships used to be. He thought about his warriors who now feared Deathworlders. He thought about the human ship that had sacrificed itself to save a city. I accept, Drexith said. They chose a neutral location, an abandoned mining station between the 2 fleets. No weapons, no armor, just 2 warriors and the fate of billions riding on the outcome. Ambassador Thalira tried to talk Junho out of it. Captain, you cannot win. The Kresh are physically superior. You will die. Junho smiled gently. Maybe. But I have to try. If there is even a small chance of ending this without more death, I have to take it. Why? Why do you care so much about my people? Because someone has to, Junho replied. Because if we only help those who can help us back, then we are not really helping at all. We are just making deals. He walked toward the transport shuttle. Sergeant Nari stopped him at the door. Sir, you studied the Kresh biology reports? I did. I know where to hit him. Good. Then remember what I taught you. Speed over strength. Always. The abandoned mining station was cold and dark. Junho walked into the central chamber where Drexith was waiting. The Kresh war leader was huge, easily twice Junho's mass. His skin was covered in thick armored plates. His eyes were small and mean. So, Drexith rumbled, the Deathworlder finally faces me directly. I expected you to hide behind your ships forever. I do not hide, Junho said calmly. I fight smart. There is a difference. You fight like a coward. I fight to win. Today, I fight to end this war. Drexith charged without warning, trying to use his superior size and strength to crush Junho quickly. But Junho had spent his whole life training in Earth's gravity. He was faster than Drexith expected. Junho rolled under the charge, came up behind the creche, and struck at the exposed joint behind his knee. Drexith roared and spun around, slashing with his claws. Junho ducked the blow and hit Drexith's other knee. This was Junho's strategy. He could not overpower Drexith, but he could wear him down. Target the joints, the weak points. Make the bigger fighter work harder. For 5 minutes they fought. Drexith's attacks became slower. His breathing grew labored. Junho's strikes were precise, calculated. He was not trying to kill, just to win. Finally, Junho saw his opening. Drexith was off balance, favoring his damaged leg. Junho struck low and fast, sweeping Drexith's feet out from under him. The massive creche fell hard. Junho placed his foot on Drexith's chest, looking down at the war leader. He could kill him now, one strike to the throat, but he did not. Yield, Junho said. Drexith stared up at him in shock. A human had defeated him. A creature half his size had beaten him in combat. It should not be possible, but it had happened. I yield, Drexith said quietly. The words were transmitted across both fleets. Junho stepped back and offered his hand. Drexith looked at it, confused. You helped me up after defeating me? The fight is over. We are no longer enemies. Drexith took the hand and stood. He looked at Junho with new respect. You are an unusual warrior, human. You fight to win but not to kill. Why? Because killing should always be the last choice, not the first. The creche fleet retreated the next day. The terms were simple. They would leave Valen space and never return. In exchange, the humans would release all prisoners unharmed. Sergeant Nari personally oversaw the prisoner release. The 73 creche warriors who had surrendered were given food, medical care, and returned to their ships. Several of them thanked her as they left. One young creche warrior stopped and asked, "Why did you heal us? We are your enemies." Nari shrugged. You surrendered. That makes you prisoners, not enemies. And we do not harm prisoners. The warrior nodded slowly and left. Nari never saw him again, but she heard later that he had told his whole clan about the humans who showed mercy, about the Deathworlders who valued honor. 2 weeks after the battle, the Valen held a ceremony. Every human who had fought was invited. They gathered in the great hall of the Valen capital city, the same city that pilot Junho had saved with his sacrifice. Ambassador Thelera stood before them. People of Valen, we are here today because of these warriors, the humans. When we were defenseless, they came. When we were afraid, they stood strong. When we faced extinction, they said no. She turned to face the human crews. We feared you because we did not understand you. We saw predators. We saw killers. We were wrong. You are protectors. You are heroes. And you are our friends. Admiral Yuna accepted the gratitude on behalf of Earth. We did what anyone should do when they see people in need. We helped. But we also learned from you. We learned that strength without compassion is just cruelty. That winning without honor is just murder. Thank you for reminding us of that. The Valen presented the human fleet with gifts. Star charts showing peaceful civilizations that might welcome contact. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, a future built on cooperation instead of fear. But the most important gift was simpler. Trust. 3 months later, Captain Junho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as the human fleet prepared to return to Earth. The repairs were complete. The damaged ships were spaceworthy again. It was time to go home. Commander Jiwon approached him. Sir, we are receiving messages from Earth. The government wants to know what happened here. Tell them we made friends, Junho said. Tell them we changed the galaxy's mind about us. Just like that? Just like that. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Junho thought about everything that had happened. The battles, the losses, the victories. Earth had been isolated for 30 years, feared and avoided by the rest of the galaxy. But that was changing. Word of the battle had spread. Other species were watching. Some with fear, others with curiosity, a few with hope. Lieutenant Sora was at the tactical station. Captain, sensors are detecting multiple ships on an intercept course. Kresh? No, sir, different species. They are hailing us. Junho activated the communication system. An alien face appeared on the screen. A species he had never seen before, with silver skin and compound eyes. Human vessel, the alien said. We heard what you did for the Velan. Our colony is having troubles with raiders. We cannot pay much, but if you could help. Junho looked at Admiral Yuna's image on another screen. She nodded slightly. Send us your coordinates, Junho said. We are on our way. The alien's relief was visible. Thank you so much. After the call ended, Commander Hyun spoke up. Sir, if we keep this up, we will never get home. Junho smiled. Maybe, but somebody needs help, and we can give it. That is reason enough. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Humans from 100 different nations, speaking different languages, believing different things, but united in one goal: to protect those who could not protect themselves. Set course for the new coordinates, Junho ordered, and send a message to Earth. Tell them we are going to be delayed. Tell them we have work to do. The Indomitable turned away from Earth and headed deeper into unknown space. Behind them, the rest of the human fleet followed. The Deathworlder fleet was no longer coming home. They had found a new purpose, a new mission. They were going to show the galaxy what humanity really was. Not monsters, not conquerors, not the feared species that everyone avoided. They were protectors, guardians, heroes, and the galaxy would never be the same. Far away, on the Kresh homeworld, war leader Drexith stood before the ruling council. He was expected to be punished for his defeat, for losing 50 ships to a tiny human fleet. But instead, he told them the truth. The humans are not like us. They do not fight for glory or conquest. They fight for others. And that makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy, because you cannot defeat someone who fights for something bigger than themselves. The council listened, and they understood. The Kresh Dominion would not threaten the Velan again. Not while the humans were watching. On Earth, the news spread quickly. The Deathworlder fleet had won. Humanity was no longer isolated. The galaxy knew them now. And slowly, carefully, the people of Earth began to dream of a future among the stars. A future where they were not feared, but welcomed. Not avoided, but sought out. A future where being human meant something good. It had started with a distress call. It had continued with a battle. And it would end with something beautiful. Hope. The galaxy had called the Deathworlder fleet in desperation. And the Deathworlder fleet had answered with something the galaxy had never expected. Kindness backed by unstoppable will. And that changed everything.